Alhaitham is huge, and so is his damage, and I'll tell you why in the next 30 seconds. Alhaitham is a 5-star Dendro sword-wielding DPS with incredible capabilities in both single target and AoE. He has a boatload of cheap weapon options which can help him reach high ceilings. He's effective in many Dendro team archetypes such as Hyperbloom, Bloom, and Burgeon. He likes being built on high amounts of crit and elemental mastery. His best partner in crime is Yaimiko, 4-piece Deepwood and 4-piece Guild of Dreams are his most preferred sets, and he's high ranking in the meta of handsomeness, being one of Genshin's hottest dudes. I'm Juice, and that was the spice. To be honest, Alhaitham is the spice. Alhaitham's normal attack without any Dendro infusion deals 5 consecutive strikes, with his charge attack dealing 2 rapid sword strikes afterwards. However, when Alhaitham gains at least 1 mirror, his normals and charge attacks are converted into Dendro damage. These converted attacks use the same scalings as his normal attack talent, so it's worthwhile to level this one up for a damage increase. His normals, when Alhaitham has at least 1 mirror up, carry the primary role of applying Dendro and triggering protection attacks to cause hefty reaction damage. His elemental skill has both a tap and a hold variant. His tap variant will cause Alhaitham to dash forward and deal Dendro damage to enemies near him, which generates a mirror for Alhaitham. If you hold his skill, he goes into an aiming mode, which allows him to choose the direction of his attack. When it comes to mirror generation, the skill will create 1 mirror every time Alhaitham unleashes it, and if Alhaitham doesn't have any mirrors up, then 2 mirrors will be generated instead. When it comes to the mirrors mechanics, if Alhaitham has any amount of mirrors at any time, all of his attacks will be converted into Dendro damage, which cannot be overridden. When he hits enemies with said mirrors, projections will occur every 1.6 seconds that deal AoE Dendro damage based on the number of mirrors on field. Only 3 mirrors can exist at a time, and these mirrors each have their own individual uptimes. They'll disappear one after another every 4 seconds, and if you swap out of Alhaitham, you'll lose all of his mirrors. Alhaitham's burst deals multiple instances of AoE Dendro damage. If Alhaitham has any mirrors already up, then his burst will consume these mirrors to increase how many instances of Dendro damage he deals. For 2 seconds after he unleashes his burst, if either 0, 1, 2, or 3 mirrors were consumed, he'll generate 3, 2, 1, or no new mirrors afterwards. This can make it viable to cast Alhaitham's burst when you have no mirrors up to immediately gain 3 mirrors when swapping into him. Alhaitham's A1 passive causes him to generate 1 mirror every time Alhaitham hits charged and plunging attacks upon enemies. This can be triggered once every 12 seconds and will generally supplement your mirror generation on Alhaitham and complete it to 3 with the help of his elemental skill. So you have 2 ways to complete his mirrors. One by the burst, if there are no mirrors prior, and then this way by using his skill and passive. Alhaitham's A4 passive is a nice increase to his damage. For each point of elemental mastery Alhaitham has, the damage dealt by his projection attacks and burst will increase by 0.1%. This caps out at 100% for both abilities and would require 1000 EM to max out fully. You don't have to acquire this much elemental mastery on him, though since you'll want to build a decent amount of damage on him anyway, it's a nice bonus damage increase. Overall, some pretty nice talents with solid scalings, which allow you as the player to capitalize nicely on the higher your own skill is. I thought this would be particularly relevant considering how complex Alhaitham can be to master and how his rotation lengths can vary from team to team. For longer combos, you'd want to maximize his 3 mirror uptime by opening with his burst. After the animation is through, your attack should be converted to Dendro. Then use his normals for about 4 seconds. Refresh his mirrors with his skill or passive when you're about to lose 1 stack for 4 seconds more of uptime. And just keep attacking with normals. And then after 4 more seconds, use again either the skill or his passive, whichever you didn't use before. Be mindful that Alhaitham's A1 passive has a 12-second cooldown, so you get to only use it once per combo. You can get a shorter combo and use his burst, and then immediately his skill, which avoids you having to wait 2 seconds for the burst animation to end and to receive your stacks. After the burst stack is about to run out, you use his passive. This will lead into an on-field time of less than 12 seconds. Having a shorter on-field time allows for 18-second rotations, and you can use the remaining 6 seconds for your supports. It can also be useful if you play him with units like Yaimiko, since her turrets only remain 14 seconds on the field. If you're choosing to burst every other rotation on Alhaitham, then begin with Alhaitham's Hold E, Plunge, or Tap E paired with N1C or N2C to maximize his mirrors. For split field time combos, which tend to be around 25 seconds, plus in rotation time, you'd begin with Hold E, then attack for 4 to 11 seconds, then use his teammates' other abilities, and come back to Alhaitham. For his second window of field time, you can unleash his burst and then attack for another 12 seconds. The burst Alhaitham combo is quick and short. It starts with using his skill and his passive, and the moment the first mirror is about to fall off, you trigger his burst of 3 stacks, which maximizes burst damage, and then swap him off. This is useful in quick swappy teams. This will, of course, all take practice, and you can take your own liberties to find what works best for you, though these are the combos which tend to be most favored by Alhaitham mains out there. With Alhaitham, you can choose to burst either every rotation or every other rotation. He has an energy cost of around 70. This isn't too bad, but the speed at which you generate particles for his burst can depend on the team you're playing and what rotation you're committing to. He has a burst cooldown of 18 seconds, which is about as long as an average rotation with Alhaitham. Alhaitham also requires adequate field time to generate sufficient energy, and he generates 1 dendro particle per projection attack, which occurs once every 1.6 seconds. Typically, Alhaitham generates about 5 to 6 dendro particles per rotation, with a 1.5 second cooldown in between particle generations. If you want to burst every rotation, you would want 100 to 130% energy recharge with Nahida, triple dendro, and without Nahida, 130 to 160%. Double dendro with Nahida would be around 140 to 160%, with an electro unit this decreases to 100 to 130%. Double dendro with electro without Nahida requires 130 to 180%. Double dendro with Yao Yao requires around 150 to 160%, and double dendro teams in general tend to want around 180 to 210% energy recharge. A solo dendro Alhaitham's requirements can range from around 150 to 200%. On-field Raiden and Nahida would need 100 to 130%. If you want to burst every other rotation within most teams, you'll be good with 100 to 120% energy recharge and 120 to 150% energy recharge as a solo dendro unit. Do note that its burst mostly acts as a method to gain 3 mirrors when you don't have any up, and it's fine not to burst every rotation with him. This can also help when building Alhaitham, since you can prioritize more offensive stats over more energy recharge based stats to sustain his burst, though it's generally better to have a little bit of energy recharge just to be on the safe side. Alhaitham has artifact options that are just as solid as those chiseled abs of his. 4-piece Deepwood Memories is usually his go-to option, as he's a viable solo dendro holder of the set. The domain is high value and can situationally be his best in slot, but this set may be preferred on another unit if playing a double dendro team. However, since Alhaitham is so flexible and can be played as a solo dendro if you so choose, this set is certainly more than enough for him. 4-piece Gilded Dreams is his undisputed best in slot when playing Alhaitham in a spread team with another dendro. The 2-piece ADEM is appreciated by his A1 passive and reactions, and the 4-piece effect is highly useful for him, providing solid attack and offensive stats overall. Spread tends to be his highest performance team with the highest damage ceiling, and if you're playing him with another dendro in spread, this set becomes a no-brainer to use on him. 4-piece Emblem is a niche choice which can reduce his thick ER cost in a few of his teams. This set boosts his burst damage considerably, and is good when Alhaitham is being utilized more as a burst nuke. This set does require you to have another Deepwood holder in your team, however. 2-piece EM, 2-piece EM mix sets are good placeholders until you can get him a 4-piece set. They're easier to get good substats on, the 160 EM provision is unconditional and useful for his kit, and it's overall a decently accessible option for him. In terms of substat priority, you want to prioritize EM over attack, over crit rate and damage, over energy recharge, and then the rest of his stats are fine. Alhaitham has quite a few sharp blades at his disposal, besides that one weapon he always carries around down there. Light of Foliar Incision is his overall best in slot. The crit stat stick is appreciated. It provides bonus EM flat scaling damage to his normals and projections, similar to Shenhe's Icy Quills. It synergizes well with elemental mastery buffs, though it can be hard to get a 1-to-2 ratio with, since Alhaitham doesn't ascend with crit rate. Pretty good in all teams that Alhaitham plays in, and synergizes well with his typical build. Jade Cutter can sometimes outperform Foliar Incision in AoE scenarios, and is Alhaitham's second best weapon. The large crit rate stat stick is helpful since Alhaitham doesn't ascend with it, and the attack bonus passive is unconditional. Unfortunately, the HP percent does nothing for Alhaitham, but it's a pretty nice weapon overall, and it has high account value, so there's a lot of transferability here. Mistsplitter Reforged is his number 3, and Alhaitham can keep up 3 stacks of its passive reliably. A nice stat stick once again, although also suffers from the issue of not providing any crit rate. The attack it provides is naturally very high, and once again is overall a pretty great weapon. It shares the same rank with the Haranga Pakufutsu that does well when you focus his build around his normal attacks. I say the main flaw of these weapons is they're kinda being wasted on Alhaitham, since an R5 Harbinger of Dawn, which with its passive kept up, can compete well on the same terms as this expensive 5-star weapon. Freedom Sworn is a nice EM stat stick, but it's a little better than its 4-star options. It's a little wasteful on Alhaitham, with a 20% attack buff is appreciated in quick and related teams. Though unfortunately, the buff it provides is desync issues and rotations shorter than 20 seconds. The Black Sword provides some crit rate to Alhaitham and is a solid 4-star choice for him. It can also provide some additional survivability through its passive, which can be nice in teams such as Bloom. Tokabu, Shigure, and Iron Sting are both free-to-play friendly options. Tokabu is preferred in single target, and an R5 Iron Sting is preferred in AoE. Iron Sting performs better than Tokabu when refined, though they both perform pretty much the same on Alhaitham. Zephos' Moonlight satisfies Alhaitham's heavy energy recharge requirements, and the elemental mastery provision is nice. Zephos provides the team with energy recharge as well, and the refinements of his weapon are extremely strong. Harbinger of Dawn is a great free-to-play option for Alhaitham. When its passive is up, it competes with Mistsplitter thanks to its stat sticks. It covers crit rate in its passive and is cheap and easy refinements too. Though Alhaitham will require a lot of shields and heals when using this weapon to keep the passive active. Sacrificial Sword provides some energy recharge to Alhaitham, and projection attacks reliably trigger the weapon's passive. It allows Alhaitham to perform 2 mirror bursts and still get it to 3 mirrors with the skill reset passive. It unfortunately lacks in the damage department, however. Alhaitham has quite a few solid team options within many different Dendro archetypes, and I'll cover them all here. Firstly, for quick and related teams, any team with Alhaitham, an Electro, another Electro, and either a Flex or another Dendro will work. For his quicken options, you can play Alhaitham with Yai Miko, Kuki and Nahida, or Fischl, Beidou and Nahida. You can also play triple Dendro with Alhaitham, which would be Yai Miko, Nahida, and Baiju. In such a team, you'd actually want Nahida to hold 4-piece deployed memories, just because she will be applying the most Dendro here. Just something to take note of. In terms of Dendro units that will work overall here, Yao Yao and Dendro Traveler will be fine, and any Electro can suffice. In terms of flex units, Kazuha and Zhongli are perfectly fine choices. Quicken-related teams tend to be Alhaitham's strongest, and are generally where his higher investment setups will shine more. It's also where more complex rotations can be weaved in with Alhaitham, since pairing him with Yai Miko can be an interesting case. You can either opt for 18-second or 20-second rotations with these two. For Hyperbloom teams, you should have Alhaitham paired with a Hydro, an Electro, and then a Flex. His strongest setups here will be with himself, Shengqiu, Yelan, and Elemental Mastery Raiden, or Kuki instead of Raiden. You can also replace Yelan with Nahida. Burgeon teams would want Alhaitham, a Hydro unit, a Pyro unit, and a Flex slot. His best choices here would be pairing him with Shengqiu, Toma, and either Fischl or Kokomi. Toma is pretty much always going to be your go-to pick for Burgeon teams, since his ICD is perfect for this setup. And of course, you can mix and match teammates depending on what you have and what works for you. For Bloom teams, you want to play Alhaitham with Nilou and 2 other Hydros, or 1 other Hydro and another Dendro with a minimum of at least 1 healer. Options are flexible here, so you can try play Alhaitham, Nilou, Kokomi, and Nahida, Alhaitham, Nilou, Kokomi, and Shengqiu, or Alhaitham, Shengqiu, Yelan, and Yao Yao. Once again, you'll be pretty much fine just mixing and matching units as long as their elements match what is needed to form the general setup of the team. Alhaitham would own some blooms if you're able to maintain high mirror uptime, in which case you would definitely want to make sure his EM is solid so he's contributing well. It's worth noting that once again in general, if you simply follow the basic elemental makeup of these teams with the units you have available, it will most likely form a synergistic Alhaitham team, one of the many reasons why this man truly has it all. Alhaitham has standard ICD on his normals, with Dendro being applied every 2.5 to 3 seconds. He has a 2-hit ICD on his mirrors, which means the more mirrors Alhaitham has up, the higher his Dendro application is. He can even triple his own Dendro application, granted you have all 3 of his mirrors up. His skill has standard ICD, and his burst also has standard ICD. His on-field Dendro application is fairly solid and consistent, and can even rival Nahida's performance in applying Dendro if his 3-mirror uptime is well kept. He does require skill on your end as the player, however, in order to maximize his reaction potential. This is all worth noting since a large portion of Alhaitham's damage comes from him being able to perform powerful reactions, namely spread. Now, while Alhaitham indeed swipes enemies apart with his blade, how about you credit card warriors out there looking to pull for Constellations? This has no effect on Alhaitham's regular gameplay, since his long skill cooldown doesn't allow him to comfortably use his skill twice in most of his rotations, even with his C1 activated. Using his skill again during his initial rotation means it won't be free for the next, as C1 doesn't reduce it by much. Not really a worthwhile constellation for low spenders or whales alike. His best early con, and his second best con overall. If you insist on getting his early cons, stop here. He gains a 200 elemental mastery boost, which is highly significant to him, though if you're running Nahida, get her C2 instead. It actually increases Alhaitham's damage more than his C2 increases his own. A tiny boost to his damage, since most of his overall output comes from spread. This provides Alhaitham's teammate with an elemental mastery buff when he consumes his mirrors, and gives him a Dendro damage bonus for each mirror his burst generates, since you usually tend to open Alhaitham's rotations with 0 mirrors. He only ever makes use of a Dendro damage bonus. Alhaitham himself doesn't benefit from the EM buff. His constellation really is only useful once you reach C6 on Alhaitham. Not worth it on its own in the slightest. Not really a worthwhile constellation on its own, though it has mild value in his burst nuke setups. Well, you'd only be picking this up on your way to C6 anyway. Easily his best constellation, ensures maximum mirror generation from his burst, and provides a large stat stick to him. However, the con unfortunately has some caveats, as if you try to get some stacks on Alhaitham's burst, you have to save either his skill or his A1 to utilize his C6 buff by exceeding the limit of mirrors he possesses at a time. For C6, this isn't really worthwhile considering it's actively unharmonious with parts of his kit. Alhaitham is one of the most flexible DPS units currently available in-game, and he's very flexible in other areas too. And he has plenty of potential to be capitalized on, granted that you as a player have devotion to practice playing him well. Hopefully this guide is able to expand your brain to an Alhaitham level and feed you all the info you need to know regarding playing him. Well then, this has been Juice, signing out. And I wish you all a day as warm as Alhaitham's pecs. I mean the Sumeru sun. Okay, bye.